Right, can everybody online hear me now? Can we just have some
Yes.
thumbs up?
We can, Kevin.
Thank you.
We can.
Super. Okay, everyone. So welcome to the first of Climate Conversations. Thanks very much to everyone who's turning up. Thanks to those in the room and the many people that we can see already have joined online. So Climate Conversations is an idea to bring external speakers and their knowledge to all of our colleagues here at GCF in order to be aware of the latest thinking that can assist us in enhancing our strategies, our investments, and our impacts. And so this is the first in that series, which will be approximately one a month, and the next one is tentatively scheduled for the 15th of May. So thank you for making the first one a success. We're really pleased today to be hearing from two speakers from the European Space Agency, Alex Chunet and Anika Ruess. And both of them work for ESA. Anika is an Earth observation specialist who's worked with Earth system dynamics and carbon cycles for a long time. And before joining ESA, Anika worked in Zurich as a climate and energy management consultant in the private sector. And she trained at the Technical University of Munich as well as ETH Zurich. Alex, also an Earth observation specialist in the same section, the long-term action section of ESA. And he has worked previously as the geospatial specialist, helping with the first geospatial strategy for Agence Française Développement, AFD. Alex trained at the London School of Economics as well as Sciences Po Paris. They're going to take us through some of the Earth observation platforms and satellites that are available to help us with adaptation. And just to anticipate questions, many of the Earth observation platforms you'll hear do have an application in mitigation as well, in carbon dioxide and methane monitoring, but they've chosen to focus their talk specifically on the benefits of Earth observation for adaptation. So they'll give an overview of ESA's current portfolio, going through some of the capabilities, and then very quickly move to the opportunities for engagement with climate finance and climate adaptation actors like ourselves. And we'll talk about models of engagement as we get towards the end of their talk. So without any further ado, Alex and Anika, it's over to you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Kevin. Can you just confirm whether you can hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, good. Okay, great. Perfect. Great. So indeed, I think you gave a good overview of what this presentation is about. First, we're very happy to be part of this climate conversations and the first iteration of this series. That's really great to be part of this whole process, and we hope we can contribute to brainstorming on the use of those technologies today. So, as mentioned by Kevin, essentially, we'll start with an overview of Earth observation. Then we hope to end with more concrete avenues of collaboration with specific teams, projects, and programs at the GCF and in accredited entities. And before we do so, we'll just quickly reintroduce ourselves, although Kevin already did it. But on my end, as he mentioned, I worked at European Space Agency based in Rome. What I can add, in addition to what was just mentioned, is that I used to be also the European Space Agency representative to the World Bank. So very happy to be here today. And I hand over to my colleague Anika for also the first part of the presentation. And also we're here today with this consortium and this team that we've put together for this specific activity that is aimed at supporting GCF programs and projects under a programmatic vehicle called the Global Development Assistance Program. Anyway, over to you, Anika.
Thank you very much, Alex. Hi, everyone. It's really also my pleasure to be here with you today. As Kevin already introduced ourselves, I'm working at the European Space Agency now for almost 2 years, specifically in a program. I'm supporting the program Development Assistance, Global Development Assistance Program, GDA in short, but we will come to that later when we dive much deeper into what we're doing and our current engagements in development operations. I'm heading over now already to the agenda just to give you a quick overview on what will happen the next 30 minutes, maybe 35, but we will keep it short that we have really a long Q&A session at the end. So I will start with a quick introduction on who the European Space Agency is and how we work as an intergovernmental organization before I then go over to setting the scene a bit with the technology itself, with Earth observation. Then I hand over to my talented colleague, Alex, who will showcase some very important and for you also very interesting impactful Earth observation solutions in action that we're currently working with, also with the consortia that is here today with us. And in the end, we will also talk about ESA's tailored support to GCF, how we can really collaborate together, the existing tools available, and all the ESA resources that you could potentially really make use of for your daily work. So before I dive in, I also wanted to quickly say, as Alex already mentioned, this is not only to present you today with a variety of hands-on tools and services and resources also, but it's really, we really want to enhance your daily work, your projects, and really want you to understand how we, the GCF and ESA, can collaborate effectively together in various angles, actually, and boost all of your team's efforts. So let's dive right into quickly an overview on the European Space Agency and its programs and who we really are. So since 1975, the European Space Agency, ESA, has been at the forefront of space exploration and innovation. But we are actually more than just a space agency, so to speak. We're really a collective vision. This is how we like to see us. And we're committed to peaceful exploration and the use of space to benefit people, society, and of course, our planet. And our work goes beyond launching rockets in the end and operating the satellites. It's really about improving life on Earth. And yeah, in the end, our mission is really rooted in making space work for humanity. You see here that ESA represents a truly pan-European collaboration. We're proud to be made up of 23 members actually now since January this year, where Slovenia recently joined. And together, these countries contribute their talents, their resources to really advance space science, technology, and exploration. And this collective effort in the end means that we are a unifying force that brings together nations to solve the problems that are out there. And that's also why we at ESA are working since several years already together with international financial institutions and now expanding our collaborations with the global climate funds, like you, like the GCF, but also with GCF, CIF, and the Adaptation Fund. And we work really together with them on a strategic level, but then also with their accredited entities, and finally, actually the beneficiary countries or the country counterparts, right? And really the local community, because this ensures in the end that the efforts of observing Earth systems in the end are really creating impactful and then also scalable solutions that benefit people worldwide. So observing the Earth, basically, in the first place, when you really break it down, it means collecting rich data on the world's problems, because this is, as said here by the former Google data scientist Seth Stephens-Davidovitz, it's the first step towards fixing them. And this quote really resonates deeply with the work that we do at the European Space Agency when focusing on Earth observation technology. Because think about it, if we don't understand a problem fully, how can we start solving it? And data is in the end not just numbers on a page. It's really the foundation of every meaningful solution that we create together. And there are many, many problems that we need to find a solution. As all of you know, our planet is under immense pressure from disaster risks that destroy ecosystems and livelihoods to polluted rivers and cities in smoke, from also melting glaciers that threaten the coastal communities to agriculture lands really suffering under erratic weather patterns. And these are not isolated issues. They're really all interconnected and compounding, and each crisis is amplifying the other. So where do we really start in the terms of those problems? And at ESA, we work with satellites to observe and to see what is going on the Earth. And satellites are our silent observers from space. They have their unique vantage point and offer us something that we never could achieve on the ground. It's a complete, it's a consistent, and it's a global view of our planet. And they're not just watching, they're really working daily. They provide essential information about environment and our changing climate, whether it's monitoring deforestation, it's tracking rising sea levels, we can map carbon emissions. Satellites really equip us in the end with the data that we need to act decisively and effectively in our daily projects. And on the next slide, you can see that ESA is really at the forefront of making Earth observation data actionable with the launch of a range of satellites over the last 40 years. We are actually better placed to understand the complexities of our planet because everything is interconnected, particularly with respect to global change. So these data are fundamental to the projects that we support all over the world, and the need for information from satellite is actually right now growing at an ever-increasing rate. The success of ESA and Earth observation technology isn't achieved in isolation, of course, right? It's built on a foundation of partnerships with a diverse range of actors. First, here quickly to mention is Copernicus. I will dive deeper in the next slides, which is the largest Earth observation program in the world, actually. Then we have our long-standing partnership also with EUMETSAT for meteorological satellites. So together with them, we deliver highly accurate weather and climate data that helps forecasters predict extreme weather events. And in the end, ESA also works closely with the private sector to foster innovation and expand the commercial markets for EO satellites. And these collaborations, in the end, ensure that EO technology really remains accessible and impactful across a wide range of sectors. So here what you see is the Copernicus program. Just a quick overview. Copernicus is really a shining example of international cooperation. It's run in partnership with the European Union, and it provides free, full, and open access to data that is used worldwide. It makes different services available. So, for example, you see on the picture the climate change service, where you can really find modeled climate projections. You see the marine monitoring. You see an atmospheric monitoring service comes where you really can have answered the questions like, what will the air we breathe be like tomorrow? Where are the best places for my solar farm? So really breaking down, there are many, many services out there from Copernicus. And in the end, those services are made happen through a constellation of satellites. And those satellites in Copernicus are the Sentinels. They are developed by ESA to meet the operational needs of those Copernicus services that I just mentioned. So each of the technology of each mission is different. It's for example, there's radar, there's multispectral imaging instruments, and this really depends then on the application that we need it for in the service, right? For land, ocean, atmosphere, it really differs. And today, all land masses are actually observed every 5 days at a 10-meter resolution with Sentinel-2, and every 12 days at a 20-meter resolution with Sentinel-1, just to give you an example. And this is a vast data volume. It's actually 300 terabyte per day. And that leads actually also to an exponential increase of ESA's data archive. And those data is then also freely and openly available to anybody in the world. It's really on the fingertips of you. It's a full and open free data policy. And this also means that we at ESA, we want to share this with our various stakeholders. On the next slide, you just quickly see an example of the twin satellites of our Sentinel-2 mission. So it's Sentinel-2A and Sentinel-2B that you're seeing here orbiting around the Earth. And with them, we're really able to capture high-resolution images of the entire global landmass every 5 days at a 10-meter resolution. And this frequent and detailed coverage is really essential in the end for monitoring a wide range of environmental variables. So in the end, Copernicus provides us with a dozen of geophysical parameters being measured actually daily from a range of different satellites in the orbit. So Copernicus really enables us to measure the vital signs from space. It's a system view, and it's key to understand how ocean, atmosphere, land operate and interact. So we really can find different indicators like cross-primary production, for example, or land surface temperature. But we will have a deeper look into this later. And all this data is out there. As I said, it's really available. You can find them. Also, the slides will be shared afterwards. Then you can have access to all the links that we provided you here on this slide. And there are several pages where or web portals where you really have access to the Sentinel reference products, like, for example, the Copernicus Space Data Ecosystem or the 6 different Copernicus services that I mentioned, Atmosphere, Marine, Land. They all have their unique web portal. So at ESA, our true impact in the end really lies in delivering actionable information to our partners. And our mission is deeply aligned and also with the goals of GCF, right? Especially when it comes to empowering accredited entities to design and execute and then also monitor effective climate adaptation initiatives in their respective countries. And we really provide the kind of actionable climate and environmental information that is essential for detecting impactful projects and increasing then also climate investments. So this was it on ESA. Now we have a quick dive into the Earth observation technology, just really a general one. So as you saw already, satellites orbiting high above the Earth, they are not just providing pretty pictures, right? They're really capturing the critical data in near real time and covering every corner of the planet. So from monitoring deforestation in the Amazon to tracking Repeat Islands, from detecting methane lakes also to predicting flood risks. Like Earth observation can really support decision making on a global and a national, but even a local level. And this technology is also scalable, it's reliable, and it's accessible. It's our eyes on the planet, giving us the tools to adapt to climate change and better design projects and have long-term monitoring and evaluation. And this is really where also Earth observation satellites overcomes some of the key gaps and shortfalls in traditional data collection when it comes to M&E, so monitoring and evaluation. When we have a quick look here, so they really have the great benefit of affordability. So when it comes to coverage, also the traditional data collection measures, there may be face-to-face interviews or in-field testing, and this requires travel and physical contact, which is often then limited. So here satellites really have a global coverage. They are frequent and they have a huge speed, right? So in the end, it's really also about the range of scale that satellites provide us with. And they are anonymous. So it's really, the face-to-face traditional data collection methods are with EO data. You can really observe the ground unnoticed, so to speak. And then in the end, it's also objectivity. So satellite instrument measurements have known and a control range of error and are thus less susceptible to biases that may occur with human observations, right? So all of this are some benefits that satellite provide when it comes to traditional M&E efforts. And in the end, Earth observation data has a vast transformative power when we use it correctly, right? Here's just a quick excursion to the SDGs. So some of the SDGs indicators, exclusively, we can only monitor and observe through Earth observation data. And there's a lot of research that goes into that also. The United Nations system often uses the SDGs as a guiding framework, and while that provides a solid foundation, it's actually only the beginning, right? When we work with individual countries, we daily and quickly see that each nation has its unique challenges. For example, the priorities of a small island state facing rising sea levels differs vastly from a landlocked country with having challenges of droughts, right? And that's where the true power of Earth observation shines. It's not just about the global insights, it's really about providing customized and actionable solutions tailored to the specific needs of each country. And I mean, yes, of course, there's potential for certain approaches to be transferred between nations. And after all, best practices are really, really valuable. But it's adequate customization, which is key to making these solutions truly effective. In the next couple of slides, you will see some examples, some animations. So here, for example, it's the multispectral imager on board of Sentinel-2, which can distinguish between different vegetation types and other land cover features. And this data then in the end really helps in monitoring natural resources assessing the impact of land use changes and implementing, in the end, then sustainable land management practices. Satellite imagery can be used, obviously, also to monitor the changes across time, which is an example here. So this gives really the possibility to monitor many different indicators, including, for example, on the next slide here, in Rondônia, the satellite images captures dramatic progression of deforestation over nearly 25 years. And always when I see that, it's really, it kind of hurts, and you see it's a systematic clearing of forest areas for agriculture and settlements. The same here when it comes to water scarcity on Lake Popo in Bolivia from 1984 to 2019. So satellite images show the alarming depletion of this lake, which has almost entirely dried up over 3 decades. We can also use satellite for looking at urban sprawl, which is clearly visible here for Bangkok over the last 30 years, from 1985 until 2015. So it really captures the rapid outward expansion of the city into agricultural areas, driven by economic growth and population pressure also. You can also monitor agricultural land by allowing to do crop mapping. As you see here, an example, you can monitor crop yields and identify irrigated land and droughts, and really pinpoint the areas that are affected by droughts and changes in vegetation health indices. This is just a general example where we use the city of Paris, and you see really the densely built up areas that they retain more heat. So you see the land surface temperature, and the built up areas retain more heat compared to surrounding rural areas, like for example in the left corner, or actually also the river, right? So this information is in the end critical for then designing strategies to mitigate these effects, and it has a very high potential to inform investments in green spaces and infrastructure. And before I end my presentation, here's an example of a visualization tool which is out there, which is the World Land Cover. It's based on Sentinel-1 and 2, and it's also freely accessible. And it's a global land cover map at a 10-meter resolution. And it provides you with 11 land cover classes. And you can actually just click on the web page and dive right into. Yeah, I think let's watch a video quickly on this one, which will explain much more how you can easily access the data that is out there. And then I will afterwards let Alex take the rest of the
Great. Thanks a lot, Anika, for introducing the first part. Can everybody see me? I think so, yeah. And just to piggyback on what was just presenting through this video, so that's indeed the world cover data set that shows you this approach of having a land cover map for the whole world. That's something that also kind of tells you about an approach that can be done at a much more local level with even higher accuracy and with the latest data out there, right? Because those global data sets can be produced for specific years in the past, but when you need this data at a much more localized level, you can have it and you can produce it with really the information you have from the latest month, and you can then continue monitoring land cover over time, right? So building on the overview that was given by Anika on Earth observation and its use and also the mission of ESA, I wanted to give you real world examples here. So I will dive into some like a choice or a selection of a few high impact examples that we've been working on with different partners over the past. And then the last part of the presentation which hopefully I'll come to fairly quickly, is really about identifying potential entry points and avenues for collaboration with GCF projects, programs, and teams and accredited entities, essentially. So going to the examples directly, here is the selection of 4 examples that I will cover. And starting with the first one on the Horn of Africa. So ESA essentially in the Horn of Africa developed a desert locust monitoring service with the collaboration of the World Bank and the East African Intergovernmental Authority for Development, IGAD, with the objective of supporting early warning action by tracking egg breeding as well as impact assessment of damaged crops and damaged agriculture areas. So the success of this approach was really linked to the co-design approach with the IGAD, so the Horn of Africa institution I was just mentioning, and the World Bank, in order to not only develop services and tools, but also transfer capabilities to this regional organization in using Earth observation. And I think that's something that is key in our approaches here. We really aim through our collaborations with partners at building capabilities on the longer term and ensuring a sustainable adoption of those tools on the longer term. That's really key for us. Another example is the one that we've been working on with the Asian Development Bank, which aimed at assessing the impacts of air pollution forecast on people's movement patterns and exposure to non-communicable disease risk factors of the Greater Hanoi. So here the key was really to mobilize AI techniques, machine learning, to produce super resolution imagery, so essentially increase the resolution of public imagery to go from 10 meters to 5 meters, which would and will and then allowed already to produce land cover maps and land use classification that is being used for the policy dialogue and the territorial planning. So I would say the interest of this and the key of this example is really the use of AI techniques to produce land cover maps and more information and insights that are then used for policy dialogue and project preparation, essentially. Third example is quite interesting. That's the one of the nature-based solutions opportunity scan. It's a tool and a methodology that aims at identifying at the scale of cities the areas that are the most prone or the best fit for nature-based solutions investments. And that's a tool that we've co-developed with the World Bank. It has already been applied to 70 cities, already informed 2.5 billion of investment. That's something, again, that is rather in the first, compared to the Horn of Africa engagement, which was really about the implementation of components and direct support through the project. Here, it's more to inform the policy dialogue and the project preparation, right? But that's something that's being scaled up right now and adopted by different organizations. So there's lots of potential to use this tool and methodology to better target essentially nature-based solutions investments at the scale of cities. And last but not least is an example on South Sudan. This one is something we've implemented with the World Bank in South Sudan, as I was mentioning, and in collaboration with the Ministry of Water Resources Management. The objective really was to develop information, tools, and services that would allow to produce insights on flood risk, which would guide then the policy and potential interventions of the ministry. And then again, as in the first example I was mentioning, it's not been only about developing services and tools and products that were just pushed to the beneficiary. It was really also to combine our expertise, technical expertise on the use of those tools with activities of the World Bank aimed at capacity building, so that the knowledge and essentially the expertise linked to the use of those tools could be transferred to the beneficiary country. That's really key in the collaboration and the partnerships we have with the different institutions we work with. Now that you have those concrete examples, which hopefully give you a better idea of the type of activities we have, and recalling again that those specific engagements were implemented under the Global Development Assistance Program, which is this programmatic vehicle we use to partner with climate funds and development finance institutions. Now that I have given this kind of horizon of concrete examples, I would like to dive with you in concrete potential avenues and entry points for the collaboration and on which we could collaborate and try to make the financing and the activities of the GCF more efficient and more impactful by leveraging satellite technologies. So essentially, broadly speaking, ESA can provide support to GCF accredited entities on the use and integration of Earth observation technologies to first inform processes related to accessing GCF financing, but also to ensure the efficient and impactful use of the funding. And this entails the mobilization of potential ESA support throughout the project cycle, which is the wheel you're seeing at the bottom right corner, which I will reuse on the next slides. So if we start with the first step of the project cycle, which is or could be policy dialogue and national adaptation plan. If we start with this specific step, the partnership between ESA and GCF can be mobilized to support, for example, GCF's readiness program by providing high quality, scalable climate data and analytics, as well as strengthening countries' capabilities and capacities to elaborate the national adaptation plans. And it's good, of course, always to recall that the national adaptation plans are those overarching strategies, so those documents that are supposed to lay out the overarching strategy for adaptation for the country at national level. And that is driven by them, of course, right? So there is a way for us potentially to contribute to the use of the latest data and technologies to ensure that really the insights produced in those reports and the information used is as granular and as recent as possible, right? And that it has as much value add as possible. Then another step is the step of design of proposals and project preparation. So we've been discussing to a certain extent already with a few stakeholders that try to access GCF financing, and quite a few of them have been mentioning that they would potentially need support on strengthening the climate rationale, for example, of the proposal, or doing a better geographical targeting for the activities. And all this is also something that can be an entry point to have a coordinated GCF-ESA collaboration, where ESA would be supporting countries that are designing proposals in using Earth observations and satellite technologies in order to strengthen the climate rationale and have a better geographical targeting for the activities that will be implemented. Third would be project implementation, in the sense that those technologies can gear and inform the implementation of some components, should it be by providing additional analytics, because one of the activities is the implementation of a strategic plan or a territorial plan, and we use some of this Earth observation data to inform this plan. Or it could also be that the project implementation entails capacity building activities, and we would be in the position through this partnership to support those activities and to facilitate access to documentation and tailored really content for capacity building activities in order to increase capacity of the local stakeholders when it comes to the use of those technologies. And finally, monitoring and evaluation, essentially the use of GCF information, of Earth observation data facilitated by the European Space Agency to better monitor and evaluate adaptation actions and the projects over time, and potentially evaluate its impact with time, to impact on the ecosystem, impact on urban development, impact on economic activity, and so on, right? So that gives you a horizon of what is potentially possible in the entry points and avenues of collaboration we can think about throughout the project cycle. It also entails this potential collaboration, light capacity building activities awareness raising activities that can be implemented for GCF staff or for the accredited entities. So it's possible, for example, for us to come to a workshop or to come to a conference that is being organized to do some light capacity building, or to go to a country potentially if there is a key event happening there. And also, essentially, the formulation that comes back to what I was mentioning before, but the third bubble here is really about us trying to advise and provide as much as possible advisory on how best can you think about the use of Earth observation technologies in the design and implementation of projects and programs. And we're happy to support, review any document you deem relevant, and support on the integration of those technologies. Right, so the last slide before I hand over to my colleague Daniel from the consortium that were recruited is this slide on the Global Development Assistance Program. That's the main programmatic vehicle that we use to essentially push forward this collaboration. And it's through this program that we have recruited and mobilized a consortium of European partners to support implementing entities / accredited entities on the development, integration, and adoption of Earth observation technologies. So we have set up a team that is dedicated and that to which we have given the mission to support our partner climate funds institutions in better leveraging Earth observation technologies. And we have done so through the GDA program. We just kicked this off, and we're very eager to see how we can be in discussion with some of you to identify concrete entry points. So now I hand over to you, Daniel, quickly to give an overview of the consortium.
Thank you very much, Alex and Anika, for that excellent intro to this area. So I'll introduce myself first. I'm Daniel Morton. I'm Science Director of a company called Argans. Argans is a UK SME with over 15 years experience of developing Earth observation products and services. Our R&D spans marine litter, coral bleaching, coastal erosion, urban and terrestrial monitoring, to name just a few. And we're a subsidiary of a much larger group, ACRI-ST, which leads an international group of Earth observation specializing SMEs that operate in Europe, Africa, and North America. And they cover the whole sort of ecosystem of satellite data processing, from ground segments to quality control to service provision. The only part that we're not involved with is building satellites and launching satellites. So I'm here today with a colleague from a consortium that we're involved with. So the consortium is the Global Development Assistance, Climate Adaptation and Finance Program, which Alex mentioned started very recently, and we had a kick-off meeting earlier this month. And the objective of the GDA, CA&F, as I call it, is to respond to the needs, the adaptation needs of developing nations, and to do that, we will aim to develop or prototype bespoke pre-operational services to deliver the needs of the national adaptation plans. So Alex and Anika shared some examples of products that already exist through ESA, but Alex mentioned oftentimes these data may not be bespoke for the needs of a given problem. So he gave an example of the World Cover Project. Well, the World Cover Project represents the whole world. In order for it to be feasible to develop a land cover product like that, I think it only has six categories of land cover. By developing bespoke products, we can respond more precisely to the needs of the adaptation plans. To do this, I mean, the idea of the climate adaptation and finance program is that we don't know at the start. Could we go back to the previous slide, please? We've gone forward a slide. I wanted to introduce we don't know at the start the exact requirements of the developing nations. So we've built up a team that's really a sort of Swiss Army knife of organisations. So there's Argans that I've just introduced. We have Tree Metrics, which is a small Irish company specialising in forestry management. Caribou, who I'll introduce you to later, so I won't say any more about that. There's Environment Systems, which is an SME. We've employed them because of their expertise in agricultural monitoring. GSAT is a Czech Republic company, and they specialise across the whole spectrum of Earth observation, but we've brought them mainly in for the forestry and their urban things. Technalia is an independent research organisation in Spain. They cover a broad spectrum of scientific activities, but we brought them in mainly for their expertise in climate. UKCH is a world-leading independent research organisation based in the UK. They employed me for nearly 20 years, and they're experts in many areas, but we brought them in for their expertise in urban resilience and using satellite data for that, and to oversee the economic significance of our activities. We've employed London Economics. So the way that this works is that we're there ready to respond to the needs of climate adaptation, but we don't know at this point what the needs will be. So we have an engagement process that will enable us to work with the financial institutions, understand the needs of their developing countries, and that's where I bring Nikki in, because Nikki is from Caribou, and it's a consultancy. So Nikki, if you'd like to take over there, please, and say how we're going to engage with the organisations.
Thanks, Dan.
Nikki,
So I'll just...
Nikki, if you can just keep it to 1 minute per slide, that would be amazing, because I realize we're a bit late.
Of course, I'll do my best. So thanks, Dan. So as Dan mentioned, I work for an organisation called Caribou. We specialise in raising awareness of the ways in which digital tools and data, including Earth observation, can be used to facilitate decision-making on these big global issues. And so our role within this consortium is really to support our technical partners to understand the needs of organisations such as yourselves, and under this co-creation approach that Alex mentioned, to work together with you to identify those high potential areas for EO products to influence, enable and optimize your activities and those of your accredited entities. And so since kicking off this engagement really recently, we've just spent some time trying to understand your priorities, and in particular these 4 result areas that you see on your screens now, to really understand where you focus your efforts on climate adaptation. And so we've also been interested to read more about what you describe publicly as your paradigm shifting pathways, or really the approaches that you can take to accelerate progress against climate resilient development objectives. And so our role now is really to unearth these areas for potential integration of the Earth observation and provide you with more inspiration of the ways in which EO can support the work of your accredited entities. And if you go to the next slide, Alex, so this slide is really just an example of one particular area, but there's a number of, obviously we know there's a number of objectives that you're working towards that could be facilitated by Earth observation. So this is really just talking about urban planning. We saw earlier in Anika's slides the map of Paris showing land surface temperature. So those working in urban planning obviously find it really crucial to understand where there may be urban heat islands so that we can take action to adapt building materials, adapt infrastructure design, prioritize green and blue infrastructure that can help with the cooling and absorbing capacity, and improve the city's resilience to climate impacts. And so this slide is really just to give you an idea of the types of products that can be developed, the bespoke products that Dan spoke about. And so on the right-hand side, you'll see the top example is a little snapshot of an Earth observation product developed by our technical partner GSAT in Pakistan, which really provides a range of tailored indicators to be able to describe the quantity, quality and distribution of public spaces, so those urban green areas and public parks and street space, and helps to kind of see their evolution over time and understand how that green space is changing and what effects that might have on different parts of the country. And at the bottom, the City Explorer Toolkit, which is something developed by our partner CEH, the Centre of Ecology and Hydrology. So that toolkit is really about helping planners to understand where best to create these urban green spaces and blue spaces, such as parks and ponds, to ensure that they can really produce the benefits for both cooling and air quality and noise reduction. So I'll leave it there, but these are just one specific example. In the interest of time, we put a lot of other examples in the annex to this presentation so that you can have a look through other areas where we think there could be potential to map GCF's priorities to different Earth observation products, and we've provided some specific examples of solutions in there. But for now, I'll hand back over to Alex, and you can talk a bit more about GDA resources. Thanks.
Great, thanks a lot, Nikki. And that's the very last slide, which is an invitation to collaborate and for you to reach out. So should it be on building on Earth observation analytics for the national adaptation plans, on simply brainstorming on Earth observation, to strengthen potentially the proposals of some accredited entities, to build capabilities in countries to use those technologies. Really feel free to reach out to us. We're quite flexible on the way to engage. What we can assure to you is that we're ready to collaborate and to try to find avenues on which we could increase the impact and efficiency of your activities by leveraging those technologies. That's our mandate. That's the mission that we have for the next 2 years at least, and then there will be a continuation probably to this program. But yeah, really happy to hear your questions and to discuss with each and every one of you potential avenues for collaboration and support. Thanks a lot. And sorry, Kevin, for being a bit late. I realized we took more time than we were supposed to.
Not at all. It was fascinating, and thanks to all 4 presenters for giving us such a thorough picture of all those initiatives in Earth observation. Whilst I wait for my colleagues online and in the room to overcome their shyness, I'm going to use the sort of moderator's privilege just to ask if you could just elaborate a little on those mechanisms, those entry points as you described it. You implied at one point, Alex, that it would be okay to work on a sort of ad hoc basis. Nikki, you suggested that perhaps for Caribou to gain a better understanding of all the areas where your services might be valuable is another useful conduit, and I'll follow up independently and bilaterally on that one. And Alex, when we spoke previously, you also spoke about an exemplar project where Earth observation is embedded into its design. So from your perspective, and bearing in mind that everyone has limited resources, what's the best method, best modality, if you like, to engage in the offer that you're making? Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Well, that depends on what the goal is. I think there's different levels. There is essentially the level where we want to support the use of those technologies for national adaptation plans, and then we might want to connect with the people from the readiness program in order to see how we could combine the support that can be provided by ESA with the support that is provided by the readiness program. It could be about strengthening the proposal of an accredited entity, or it could be about better monitoring and evaluating. I guess that entails us intervening potentially at different steps of the project cycle. What we, in terms of concrete entry point and engagement, what that entails simply for us is we have now an open window that opened literally a few days ago because we officially kicked off this activity, and we're ready to engage, as in to discuss with each one of you about your specific need. Should it be on M&E? Should it be on the NAPS, the readiness program? Should it be on integrating a project component or trying to ensure that the project component that could be, for example, on early warning systems builds on Earth observation? Our teams are essentially ready to engage and have a meeting with you or even the implementing entities, even potentially organize another webinar for the implementing entity and raise awareness. So I would say the entry points vary depending on really what is the objectives, depending on the few items that are here on the slide. What won't change is that we're available to discuss and start implementing the support as soon as we find concrete requirements. So it means, in concrete terms, that if we have a discussion with the team and that we identify that there is a potential high impact engagement to have an opportunity to have a high impact collaboration on M&E in a specific country, in a specific project, if we write down potentially exactly what needs to be done, we can start directly working on it on our side and mobilize the technical team. The reason is that considering that we've already recruited this consortium, there is no transfer of funds, there is no paperwork on your side or anything. It's in-kind support that we provide. And we just need to sit down and agree on what you need, what we can provide, how it can be a coordinated approach with both ESA and GCF coordinating their activities. And that's how we will achieve essentially the objective.
Exactly.
Thanks.
And just to complement this here, as I can only echo my colleague, right? And I mean, please just feel free, maybe as a team I mean, this is also a lot to digest that we presented to you today, but to discuss and brainstorm as a team, where you can see specific angles. And then we're also, both Alex and I, we're very happy to brainstorm together with you, right? In a more smaller round and really get together bilaterally. So please don't be shy to just reach out after the webinar.
Thanks,
and
Anika.
I see our colleague Chris also raised his hand.
Yeah, Chris, I'll come to you in a second. Thanks, Anika. I'll make sure that we focus our efforts there. And we have a question from the room here from Ben.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everybody. Not so much a question, more just an observation. We already, GCF and ESA, we are partners in the Global Forest Observation Initiative. And this obviously is limited to the forest and land use sector and focused much more specifically on the use of information on forest and land use change for the purposes of mitigation, measurement of change in carbon stocks for mitigation purposes, and supporting countries in RED+ implementation and reporting. But it is an entry point, and it would be interesting, certainly, for us to explore through that partnership how ESA could contribute also to our monitoring of adaptation indicators and how we could identify the appropriate ways for building consistency in ecosystem-based adaptation monitoring over the projects that we support. But I would propose that perhaps, I think from your side, it's Inga Jonkira, who used to work with an FAO before GCF. She's one of the focal point for GFOI from ESA, and it might be an idea to try and bring these ideas that you presented to us to the GFOI partnership and see if there's a route to collaboration there. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben. So, Christoph, if you'd like to come in now, and then if anyone else on the presenting team would like to just respond to Ben's comment.
Yeah, thanks all. Frankly, I think that I'm probably in the best position to answer this comment anyway. So maybe just to highlight quickly. So my name is Chris. I'm actually the program manager of the GDA, the Global Development Assistance Program. I just wanted to, before I get to the comment, make one kind of complementary remark. Anika and Alex obviously presented it very nicely on the last end. It was about modalities of engagement and the way forward. I just wanted to highlight that this particular activity that Alex and Anika presented here, the climate adaptation finance activity under the GDA program, should really be seen not as a standalone, as a 2-year thing that has a start date and an end date, but we really try to just put this in place as a first instrument to start engaging, to start understanding the needs of entities like yourselves, like the GCF, and explore that with a vision to do more in the coming years. Right? Actually, we have our next ministerial council meeting at ESA coming up later this year, where all our member states at minister level come together to define the next budget cycle and the next priorities. And we will embark on a new programmatic vision, which is called Earth Action. And in that Earth Action vision, we really plan to, and it is in the program planning, to engage more with entities like yourselves and try to aim for more strategic impact. So my comment here is just to let's explore together ways of how we can work, in an impactful manner, and then let's not be kind of too constrained by current conditions, but really let's have a forward look where we can see how Earth observation can become an amplifier, and ESA can become an amplifier to what you guys are doing, and to basically help support your mandate. So that's the one comment. Then very briefly on the, because I don't want to take all the time, on the comment from the floor. So GFOI, obviously we have been engaging with GFOI for a long time, also with partners like the World Bank, with FAO and others. But it's important to understand that GFOI, of course, from the ESA perspective, is not a program, right? It's an initiative that is led externally through also the Group on Earth Observation involvement, where many different partners come together and pool expertise and in a sense also resources. On our side, on ESA side, there is no specific programmatic vehicle attached to GFOI. So we are actually tapping into different programmatic instruments to feed into this partnership. And one of them can be the Global Development Assistance Program, or in the future, the Earth Action Program. So just to say that when it comes to engaging at a strategic level with funds like GCF, or IFIs like the regional banks, World Bank, etc., then it's actually this section that all of us, Anika, Alex, and myself, are in the long-term action section, who is actually leading this. So Inge's team is doing the R&D side on, Inge Jonkere that you mentioned is doing the R&D side on developing new applications, on understanding maybe requirements, new requirements for policies. And then basically we have different teams that try to aim for taking it forward, bringing it to a pre-operational level, and engaging specifically on a strategic level with partners to push adoption and external uptake. But obviously, we are very keen to pull all these strings together, and I think you have the right entry point here to that we can make that happen. So we certainly are looking forward to that. I leave it here, that we have some space.
Thanks very much, Christoph. We did have a question in the chat about monitoring certain emissions, but both Anika and Daniel have posted some answers to that, so thank you for those answers. If you will indulge me, I need to wrap things up. Many people here have other engagements now. So first of all, I would like to thank all of the speakers who've presented this fantastic platform and the consortium that is behind it. So can we thank them in the usual way? So for ESA and GDA colleagues, I'll be following up with you unilaterally to make sure that we can create a pipeline for any further inquiries that need to come your way. For colleagues here, thank you for your attention. I hope you picked up on the most important point there. There's a fantastic resource. It's completely free. You just need to ask. So thanks for being here, and looking forward to the next of these climate conversations in a month's time. Thanks again, and goodbye to colleagues in Europe.
Thank you very much from our side.
Thank you. Thank you.